In the game of Survivor, there are many questions. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And who has the best story? That's the mission of the Survivor Storytellers. It's what they do.
That is indeed what we do. And I have a question.
Yeah.
0 votes for Carolyn? Are you kidding me? 0 votes for Carolyn?
I know. It is absolutely wild. You literally just finished the finale there on the West Coast. I know you didn't get a chance to watch the reunion, which I think is irrelevant for us as storytellers to talk about at the moment. But let's have like a 5-minute like rant or whatever we want to do, and then we'll kind of break down the actual storytelling aspect of it. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I am honestly very unhappy with this season, just by and large. I know that it's been getting like people are like, oh, well, it's picked up the last couple episodes, but I don't know. Like, to me, this season has been, since the pre-merge, in all honesty, very, very prevalently just like it's the Tika 3, it's the Tika 3, Tika 3, Three Stooges. And like, because the editing focused so much on those three, we'll get to Carson. I just throughout the whole season, I could not stand Carson. Carson, like, I don't think I'm as anti super fan as you are, but man, he really struck a chord with me on that front. Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I do think as far as the actual storytelling and editing goes, this was a decently edited final 3, but holy shit, Yam Yam just fucking knocked everyone out just because he could like tell jokes, I guess. I don't know. Like, I get his game. I don't get the story that is being told. We were not really seeing the story through his eyes. We were seeing the story through Carolyn's eyes. Oh, it's really frustrating. I almost feel like I would, I feel like this would sit a lot better with me if Carolyn was not a finalist, if that makes sense. Like, if she was voted out right before the finals, if she was like the fire-making loser or something. I just, to go all that way, like all that build up, all that story, well, I'm sure we'll talk about like kind of the bookend, you know, like breaking the fourth wall confessional thing. And to not even get a vote. All right, Casey, I'll let you talk. You're muted.
I agree with you in some regards, and then I disagree with you in others. So for myself, like, the first half of the season, I was very unsure about this season. There was a number of things that I didn't like, mainly just the heavy focus on, you know, twists, advantages, idols. I mean, literally within the first couple episodes, there was like 9. I think it was by the end of like the second or third episode. I can't quite remember. There was like 7 to 9 like advantages at play. That includes idols and twists and other shit. Like, it was just really crazy. But the thing that I was enjoying despite all that frustration was some of the characters. And then we kind of get to the merge and like things kind of got better, but weren't great. And then I will say that these last few episodes have been really good. There's been more of a focus on other people rather than the Tika 3, although the Tika 3 dominated in terms of the edit. And I understand it to an extent, but I think a lot of people really got their time slashed. We did not get to know a lot of people as well as we should have. I think 2 people where that's especially prevalent is Heidi and Lauren. I feel like we got to know Heidi a little bit more, which made it seem before the FTC that like she could have potentially won. But I, you know what the thing is in another like year or so, if we come back and we reminisce about this season, whether I'm saying like just in general, whether it be you and me or someone else, like I don't know if I will actually be able to tell you about a lot of these characters because even now, I don't know that I can actually tell you a whole lot about Kane, except Jam did pick up on the perception of like or his body language of like what was going on. And then also I know that Kane is like a super nerd. I mean, like he just constantly was just playing with like the the idol or the immunity
The sword.
the immunity sword and shield. Like that's all I could really tell you about him. Brandon had high hopes from after the first episode, but couldn't really tell you anything. Although I did meet him at Bryson Wendell's party a couple weeks ago. He's a really nice guy. But yeah, there's so many people that got sacrificed storytelling wise. And I love Carolyn. I know you weren't high on Carolyn for a long time. Wait, was that correct? Or am I mixing you up with someone?
I think you're mixing me up with someone. I've been high on Carolyn pretty much the whole time.
Okay, then I think I do think I know who I'm actually getting you mixed up with. But yeah, I liked Carolyn. Carson, I will say by the end, I did not dislike him so much.
Really?
He is also crazy. It's like, really leaning into the fan archetype. And yeah, he was struggling to make fire like during the game. Although he did say that he tried to do it, he tried to do it outside of the game and was very much successful.
Humidity, man. Humidity. That makes a big difference, probably.
But I don't know. Overall, it is of the 4 seasons that we've recently gotten, I think it is second or third, but I think it's probably the season I was most entertained by. And that was in large to do with Carolyn.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, ranking the 4, I definitely think 41, I think you and I can agree, is at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would definitely have 42 above this one. You know my thoughts on 42. I'm a huge 42 defender.
Yeah, I think 42 is the best of the new era.
I honestly think this season probably has a slightly better cast than 43. I think 43 has better gameplay. So I'm kind of leaning on 43 over this season. And 43 has more standout, like, big moments, too.
Yeah. I mean, Jesse really dominated the edit last season, but then we did kind of have an instance of bitter jury, whether they want to admit that or not. But the thing is I'm perfectly fine with Gabler. I totally, I was totally thinking, and, you could look
I mean, you knew what my thoughts on Cassidy were. I was one of the very, very few people in the fan base who wasn't really high on Cassidy.
Yeah. I understand why Gabler won. That's perfectly outlined. But yeah, I think, but I do think there are a lot of people that dislike 43 a lot because of Gabler's political values. But the thing is,
which is, I mean, that's understandable to not like the winner, but like
to not like the winner for the reasons he won. He did deserve it. Yes, Cassidy. And that's also an issue with the storytelling, but that's, it's a whole other thing. Definitely 42 is the best. 43 and 44, I haven't gauged which one's number 2 and number 3, but one's definitely last. But
so let's break down this final 5, because I mean, like you said, honestly, I feel like down the line, like I mean, like Danny's edit, I feel like he was like very much like if you were to like his edit honestly feels like an AI manufactured, like manufacture a late game threat who goes out in 7th place, who's a big personality, but not too big of a character. Like his edit was like the factory manufactured 7th place edit as far as I'm concerned. And I was not surprised in the slightest to see him go out at 7. Really quick, I don't have much to say about her that we haven't already said, but I do want to get your take on Jamie, because I think Jamie was like, for me, one of the very few bright spots of the season. I honestly think she's the best character of the whole season.
Oh, I very, very much disagree with that. But I do
maybe not above Carolyn, but like I don't know. I feel like there was something to her.
Yeah, I think and I said it in our previous 2 podcasts for this season. There was something about Jamie. I did like Jamie. Jamie was tossed in enough that she showed her face in each episode, and she had very interesting confessionals and perception about what was going on, that I thought they were giving us a very subtle winner's edit. And I said that both, I think I definitely said that in the second podcast, but maybe I didn't say that in the first because due to the fact that it was literally just the first episode. But yeah, I thought that Jamie was going to potentially be the winner, if not making it to like pretty much the end. But I like Jamie, and I like I said, I thought she was one of the more consistently relevant and edited characters this season, which is why I thought, I guess, she was going to be something much larger than she really was. But I liked her.
All right, fair enough. Well, someone who was not very large, not very big of a presence, Lauren. Oh my God. I'm honestly so frustrated by edits like this. I really am. I honestly feel like the mentality with Lauren's entire edit was like, oh, she gave a super inspirational speech on her way out, so we're basically gonna like slowly build to that, like throw in a few references to her kids. And honestly, her kids were like pretty much her entire character, like the whole way through, what little character they did give her.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm actually trying to pull up her Twitter right now, because she actually tweeted about halfway through the season of Survivor 44, where she pretty much was like acknowledging that like herself and a handful of other people did not fairly like get to be shown. This was prior to the episode that she had like won her first immunity challenge. Because so here it is, in April 14th. So it was probably right maybe the episode before. She said it's honestly hard for any audience to connect with players that aren't seen. In my opinion, Survivor will forever be one of the greatest shows of all time, but the current narrative will never be mine. And then that was actually based on a retweet of someone saying that we were robbed of more Ratu airtime, because Ratu was predominantly the Matthew show. And once again, Jamie was kind of still there. Kane was playing with toys. Like, that was like it. Like, they got a good first episode. I'll say that. They got a good first episode because you had the whole Brandon Maddie idol situation.
Right. And then you had Brandon and Matthew kind of teaming up to do that endurance challenge.
Oh, yeah. When they first got to their camp. Yeah. I mean, see, that's the thing. It's just like, Lauren, I liked her, and I would have liked to have seen more of her. I know she was a part of the conflict between two of the tribes at the merge, where they were trying to knock each other's numbers down. I know she had a good relationship with Jamie. I know that she won a couple challenges, and that meant a lot to her because she was a single mother, or she is a single mother. She wants to prove something. She wants to show something to her children. But that was her character for me, and I really can't say much. But I will say that I guess compared to some of the other characters this season, she at least got a very positive edit.
Totally. Like I said, at least like I feel like the editors kind of knew that. I get the feeling that she was probably pretty soft-spoken in the confessional department. And then I get the feeling, like I said, that the editors kind of knew that they had this big kind of like, tear-jerking exit. And so they kind of, like I said, were kind of just slowly building to that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, also I'll end it with this. She also did say that, to be clear, this was a follow-up tweet. To be clear, I do think that the season's very entertaining, yet I wish people could see how dynamic the entire cast was. Although the season's not over, we'll never see the relationships that were built prior to all this. So once again, this was probably tweeted around episode 6, so it's about halfway through the season. So, although the season's not over, we'll never see the relationships that were built prior to this. Some aspects of this episode were cringy for me to even watch because there was really no background or explanation as to why many of us made some of the decisions that were shown in this episode.
And I mean, we can only hope that with the Now, I watched the preview just to kind of see. I was honestly just curious how they were going to edit Bruce into the preview, and it's like, okay, we're gonna go with just a repeat of the "Let's Go" confessional. All right, that's what we're doing then. Okay, that's your thing, Bruce. But anyways, did they make any mention of the 90-minute thing during that preview? I don't think they did.
No.
So I hope that's true, and if it is true, then I hope that it can alleviate some of the things that Lauren is very, very rightfully bringing up about the editing.
90 minutes should fix that, assuming that Jeff and the production team do not ramp up Twist's advantages and idols. Because right now they've already gotten a lot of time. Now I will also say before
I kind of feel like they were on their best behavior post merge, though. You got to give them credit. Like they got all the crazy shit. Like once they actually merged, like once they actually started voting together as one voting block, they pretty much were on their best behavior after that with the twists.
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier. It was really it was like those first handful of episodes. And then once the merge once we hit the merge, it was like, okay, none of that crazy stuff's really in play anymore. So it's mid. And then like
we didn't have do or die. We didn't have the, oh God, wasn't there one where someone would like bet on who won or something like that?
Well, I think we only saw that once. That was definitely last season, and they bet on Owen. I believe. We also don't have the hourglass twist anymore.
Thank God. Praise Jesus.
So, yeah.
Now, if we could just get rid of the earn the merge twist.
I'm like half and half on that. I just think it needs to be altered a bit. Because having like a fake merge and then like them not making the jury. But I still will say during that part of the season, I believe his name is Josh. Josh, despite him not being in a ton of episodes, he probably actually has one of the best like edits the whole season.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah, his game is like it's so ridiculous because it's really only 3 episodes that they prominently feature him. But in those 3 episodes, you understand his stance in the game alongside his perception of his stance in the game, the new dynamic of his tribe swap, and then why he got out, his like final episode. It's like perfect. It's just which is wild. But anyway, that kind of stuff is all in the past. So let's move on to the next person. We have Carson.
Okay, so I could not stand this kid all the way up until the end, and literally like when he was breaking down in tears to Jam and given his big sob story, I was full on cracking up. I'm sorry. Does that make me a terrible person? Yeah. Carson was just so fucking arrogant this whole game. He was so like, I don't know. There's just something about him that really got under my skin in a way that honestly, even people like Cochran, who I know is like that's the one that really sets you off. But like,
yeah,
I don't like, for me, I feel like there was kind of like with Cochran, there's a layer of like I feel like Cochran was at least better in front of the camera than Carson was. Like, I don't know, like nothing about Carson's character was interesting to me. Like it was always just like, like, okay, he's running the game because he's got a pretty good social game, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's his age. It's probably his age. As I'm getting into my mid-30s, it's getting a little bit harder for me to engage with these like people in their early 20s who think they know so much about but that's it. I really think that's it. It's just kind of like the arrogance of youth, as Adam West Batman would say.
Which is like, I think is fine in a way. I think now I recognize that most of my dislike of Carson, although it definitely lessened as the season went on, I recognize that most of it has to do with the bias of me, like really disliking that archetype. And as I've said like a million times, the only like really good super fan archetype is Christian Hubicki. Like
Mhm.
that man is so freaking endearing, and I really hope we get to see him play again. But that aside, with Carson, I feel like Carson was very much used as not only this season's fallen angel, but he was also this season's narrator.
Mhm.
And he, even if some of his confessionals come off a little arrogant, like there was this one confessional here in the finale where he talks about like he is the best player left in the game. And you know what? I in a sense would agree. Of the final five, he probably was the best.
He definitely did do a lot of the heavy lifting at the merge to solidify the Tika 3 in the position that they were in.
Yeah,
I will say that much.
Yeah, and I mean I agree, but it's just
But
something.
honestly, I think part of that is circumstantial, just because he was the person from Tika who happened to swap over, and therefore was able to, cultivate bonds early. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but to be fair, though, you can't necessarily count that against him because there's also plenty of other survivors who were in similar circumstances and either A, did a similar thing, or B, wasn't able to survive.
Very true. Very true.
So, I mean, but that whole thing aside, but yeah, that's the thing. I feel like they really, like, they set him up to be the, like, he's the super fan. This is what the next generation should aspire to be. This young person who like gained like 30 pounds. They know the game. They practice the game. And look at them. They almost won $1 million being like, what, 22 years old or something like that?
I think he's just 20, which freaks me out.
That's even crazy.
I'm pretty sure he is, because they specifically mentioned like in one of the rewards that included alcohol, like, and for those of you under 21, virgin margaritas.
That's right. Yeah, they did that. But yeah, I mean, I think that was his key role, and I think he probably has like the third most screen time out of anyone in this cast. And
yeah, because he's wearing purple.
Given his storytelling role, I get it. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I still wish they would have diverted some of that time from the Tika 3 to other people. But yeah, I mean, that is what it is. I am a little sick of, the and I also understand why they do it, but I'm I am sick of the like overly positive / sappy like edits that they're constantly giving people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And but you know what?
This is an American Idol.
Yeah, I mean the Survivor fan base can get pretty toxic sometimes. So like doing those types of things very much humanizes them. So like I also get it from that. Plus it does hook people in. Even if you say that like you don't like it, there's still millions of other people that are going to see that one individual story, and that one individual story might actually just straight up get them to watch Survivor.
You know what I will say though? I do think overall the sob stories this season a lot more toned down compared to the last three.
A lot more toned down, but still are a little too relevant. Like I said, like some of the players in this game, like that was their story.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right about. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, even Carolyn, to a certain extent, a lot of her story.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is that given what Carolyn, which we can actually just transition into Carolyn.
Yeah, let's do that.
So with Carolyn, I mean, there was a lot going on with her edit. Definitely the most dynamic character, fantastic player. But
I mean, I love, like I had a feeling, like I pretty much knew that from the get-go with the breaking the fourth wall, talking directly to the producer. I pretty much knew right then and there she was at the very least making the final three.
See, that's the thing. In the very beginning, I thought Carolyn was going to be an early boot based on like the type of personality she is, and then having an identical like personality, like big personality on the same tribe. I thought Jam was going to make it to the end. She was going to be an early boot, which she could have very well been had Carson not have stuck with her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but again, I kind of like I blame that a little bit on the Helen not having a vote, or was it Helen or Sarah that didn't have a vote? I don't even fucking remember, but
yeah, but if they wanted to, they could have flipped it around and got rid of Carolyn. They could have. But with Carolyn, though, going back to the whole sob story thing, I actually don't think hers was overwhelming because, like, given all the crap that she probably has gone through being, a recovering drug addict, like, they could have gone tenfold, like, on that story, and they didn't.
No,
And
you're right.
and
They did
and
it, and that
and
I
this,
think that's what makes her edit like really stand out is the fact that a lot of her emotions stemmed from in-game stuff and not just like
yeah. But the thing that does kill me, I mean, I love her edit. I think it's my favorite edit this season, and she's also my favorite character this season. But the thing that really gets me about Carolyn is that they've actually, in my mind, and I'd be very curious to hear what other people's perceptions are, but in my mind, Carolyn, based on what the edit has shown us, has played a better game than Jam Jam or Heidi. Like, we constantly see that despite what she might be externally showing everybody, she 100% knows what's going on in the game. She knows how she's perceived. She knows the correct perception of others. She has shown a strategic mind. The only shortcoming she's ever really had that they've shown was that she wasn't great at challenges, which is honestly, of the major survivor skills or the major survivor like traits of a winner, winning challenges is the least important thing.
Can I just say on that note, it kind of pisses me off that like especially for her sake that the challenges are now like 30% of tribal.
They're what?
Final tribal, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it might be, prevalent.
I mean, it's probably not like exactly split that way. It's probably not split 30, 30, 30, but like the fact that there is like a specific section of Final Tribal Council devoted to just like, okay, let's show off your challenge resume.
Yeah,
it's like,
mean, I just want someone to say that challenges are not that important. Although you can't ignore the fact that if someone has been playing a very like constantly winning challenges, that like you can't disregard that. But like winning a couple challenges, which I think what Jam Jam won one challenge, Heidi won two.
Mm-hmm. No, one. She just won the last one, okay. And then fire making.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like, it's still kind of 1-2, and then one took Carson out. But anyway, I mean, yeah, none of them have enough that
I mean, think Carolyn like completely sucked at the challenges, but I feel like she should have been given more credit for, sticking it out and for not having that safety net of being able to rely on her challenge skills. I don't know.
I mean, that right there is a jury problem.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I will say is that in the edit, they have shown that, and this I'm actually really happy Carson did, but Carson did stick up and really give each of the final three a fair chance to defend themselves and to boost their game. I don't know if that's ever happened to that extent in the past, because they, those final tribal councils are really long. Same thing with regular tribal councils. So I'm happy that the edit showed that. But yeah, as for Carolyn as a character, definitely the best. My favorite story. She had a nice balance of everything. I just feel like she had a better game edit than what Jam Jam was shown.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into Jam Jam. I'm very mixed on how they decided to tell his story overall. Let's cross out Heidi, because throughout most of the season, like Carson was the one who was like actively pissing me off, but Heidi was like frustrating. And I feel like Heidi, there was like a little bit of Laurel energy to Heidi, not to that degree, not that bad, but a little bit of just like, okay, Heidi, can you please do something besides vote with the Tika 3?
Well, a number of times, or there had been times where she had voted incorrectly, or they just straight up just like gave her false information. It's just very interesting. But that's the thing. Heidi's edit was not an edit I was necessarily expecting to be the final three. I'd say it was at least fair enough that she was relevant, kind of almost had the sidekick-ish edit with Danny. But yeah, she was still very under-edited for a finalist, especially the second place, contestant.
I mean, like, I feel like her edit, I agree, it was good enough. Like, it wasn't like, I don't think there was any point in the season where she was invisible in the same way that Lauren was. Probably just by and large, just based on her relationship with Danny in the pre-merge, I would say that's probably like the one thing that kind of pulled her out of obscurity in the pre-merge.
Which might have really been only the relevant part of the story back then. So that I could forgive that, because there are some people that are like that. They're people's number twos or their sidekicks or whatever you want to call
Sure.
it. They don't get to shine until like later, after, you know, their shield, their big allied threat, you know, is taken out.
But the fact of the matter is, like, Heidi did make a ballsy ass move at the end. Like, and as frustrated as I was for, like, okay, she's going like 2-3 rounds, just basically letting Tika run away with the game instead of challenging them in any way. I was very happy to see that. Like, that was honestly the single surprise in the whole final episode, the single thing that made me actually like get up and take note and like actually be like, all right, is her putting herself in the line of fire. And not only doing that, but like one season after Gabler beating the record. I mean, that is,
I know,
super fucking impressive.
Which
and honestly, for that alone, I kind of feel like she should have gotten a little bit more of a coronation than she did.
Well, so two things. One, I actually said, because I always watch Survivor with my family, I said to my family right after Jeff was like, wow, that was one of the fastest times we ever had. And I said, no, there's no way that was one of the fastest times. We just literally saw last season Gabler broke the record, which honestly, I thought Gabler had broken it under 3 minutes. I couldn't remember what the actual record is, because it's just like a blip.
There was kind of a weird like Mandela effect thing going on for me. I was like, wait a minute, I thought Gabler was like under 2 minutes, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think though that like, despite Heidi probably not getting the best merge edit, which also, I guess, actually, you know what, actually, I take it back. Really, and sometimes I don't actually. Sometimes I can have thoughts in my head, but it's not until I'm actually saying them out loud or talking to people. I guess Heidi actually had a fair edit when I really think about it, because pre-merge, I guess she was, you know, Danny's, you know, second, you know, and that was her edit. She popped up, she said her piece. Sometimes she wasn't in episodes, sometimes she was. Then the merge came and she got caught in that little war that the tribes had. And then she was constantly on the bottom. She was being left out of votes, and her allies were going out one by one. And she was still featured when she needed to be. But I will say the best edit she has had all season was this finale. The only bad part of it, and it's not even the edit, it is her. She did not perform as well as she should have during the FTC, because the edit the edit was so good for her in this finale that I actually, up until FTC started, I actually thought Heidi was going to potentially win.
I thought there was a chance for sure.
Yeah. She really, you know, and I think she's had a fair edit, not the greatest edit, but she's had a fair edit this season.
All right. So Jam, my big thing with his edit is like, I just don't feel like there has been nearly as consistent of a through line to his actual story than there was to Carolyn. And I also kind of feel like, just based on what we saw at the final tribal, I hate to make this accusation, because I'm one of those people who was actually very fine with the Gabler and Cassidy thing, you know, like Gabler's political opinions notwithstanding. But I honestly think Jam won mostly just based on him being an extrovert and just having that kind of type A personality, and just knowing, like, you know, the jokes and the quips. I mean, it's, the dude's a showman and he is good at that, and I give him credit for that. Like, he is really good at getting people to like him and getting people to want to work with him. I'm pretty damn sure if there was one element to Heidi's edit I would have liked to have seen more of, it was her relationship with Jam. Because I'm sure with them both, you know, being Puerto Rican, I'm sure that those two must have had a close bond. There's no way they didn't. I mean, maybe I'm just assuming that, but I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more on that side of things.
I mean, it's very possible, but I couldn't. I think the only time we ever really see them come together due to their ethnicity or nationality is at the end when they bring it up during their speeches.
I mean, I could just be assuming. I'm probably I am just assuming, but I don't know. I get that vibe that those two were very close. So I don't know. One thing I will say with Jam Jam is that there have been a lot of people who have been citing the Matt theory. Have you heard about the Matt theory?
No.
Not Matt is in the two Matts that were on this show. Matt is in the mat that they stand on at the very beginning of the season, and Jeff is asking them questions.
Oh, I did hear a theory, and we probably shouldn't talk about it too long, but I did hear a theory about the cast photo being the second to the bottom right. So the bottom right, the second person, most of the time they put the winner of the season in that position. And there was a Survivor alum that I believe either posted that on Twitter like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh shit, really?
Saying if the theory's correct and the winner's always the bottom row, second to the right. Sorry, I think I said left earlier, right. And that means Jam Jam's going to win the whole game. And that's exactly what happened.
Okay, so what I'm saying, that wasn't what I was saying. What I was saying is like basically at the beginning of the season, and I'm pretty sure this is just going from 41 onwards. The beginning of the season, Jeff has taken the time, to talk to just a few people on the mat. He's very selective about it on who gets to speak. Every damn time, somebody who Jeff has talked to on the mat has won 4 seasons in a row. And Jam Jam, after Franny was eliminated, was the one person who had a mat chat with Jeff. So that was like, that to me was a big kind of like, it was like the one roadblock that I saw with a Carolyn win, honestly. And I don't know if that's like, I really think they need to fucking change that, because like, that's just like, it just makes things way too predictable, especially if you only have one person in that group and on finale night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever noticed that, but that could also be purely coincidental. Because they know these characters going in. I mean, they even say in the after show, after they crown the winner, they specifically said that like when Jeff met Jam Jam at his salon, like it was 100%. There was no doubt in his mind that they were going to have him on the show. So it would make sense that somebody like that you would ask a question.
Sure, no, you're right about that. Honestly, I maybe that is one thing that.
It could be purely coincidental. Who knows? Time will tell. But what I will say is going back to the actual, story aspect of Jam Jam's win. So I don't think I ever got a chance to say it on this podcast now that we only do 3, being the premiere, finale, and the, merge. But I said to a number of my friends that I'm fairly certain one of the Tika 3 is going to win. They're probably going to make it to the end. And I kept saying that I think it's going to be Jam Jam, because the thing is Jam Jam's standout quality is his social game, which is actually a huge part of Survivor. So they predominantly featured a lot of his heavy social stuff, whether it be in his confessionals or at camp. And then there was the episode about his perception and reading body language. That was the Kane episode. But the thing that really got me is I think it was after, I guess it might have actually been the episode Kane got out, where Jam Jam starts to list off, oh, this person came after me, so I got rid of them. Then this person came after me and I got rid of them. Then this person, then this person. And I thought to myself, and I said, that is such a weird thing to put in there, because the edit has not actually shown him taking charge in any of those votes. Yes, he was a part of the vote, which is still something to be attributed to his resume, but he didn't take charge in any of those. So like, it's such a weird confessional to highly focus on. It probably means something. I doubt it's something that is insignificant. And so like there was that. And then The only time I questioned it was last episode, so not the finale, but the penultimate episode. He talked about, getting Carolyn out and how it could be his $1 million mistake. And then the episode opened up with something very similar where he was talking about like making like $1 million mistake. And then he was helping Carson out. And I kept thinking to myself, like, am I wrong? Is he not going to win? But I think
honestly, the moment where he was helping Carson with fire, that kind of solidified him winning for me.
Yeah, because he was helping people, which I genuinely believe he was doing that out of the kindness of his heart. He was not doing that as a gameplay technique, because that could have massively backfired on him. I really wholeheartedly believe
I think he won a jury. I think he wins a jury vote against Carson, honestly.
You think Jam Jam wins against Carson in the final 3? I feel like I disagree. So many people have painted Carson as a threat. Jam Jam was only really targeted at the end of the pre-merge and the beginning of the merge.
I just think Jam Jam's like speaking skills and social game. I mean, like Carson can speak eloquently, but I think his problem was I feel like his last episode kind of illuminated that he does have the self-esteem issues, and it is very rare for a jury to vote for someone his age. So I don't know.
Yes, but that doesn't mean it can't happen.
No, you're right. It doesn't mean it can't happen.
And I actually think that this is probably one of my like favorite juries of just Survivor in general, but definitely of the recent season. Like, I do like that they weren't, sometimes, don't get me wrong, the bitterness and the attacking can be really fun, but at the end of the day, they are there to be the jury. And it's nice that, like, despite some people not being able to speak as well, they kind of give people a fair shot to explain their game, which is exactly what I think I would do if I was on the jury. But to kind of finish things up, going back to the story aspect of it, I feel like it was just like Jam Jam had a heavy social edit, and then there were things they were kind of attributing to Jam Jam that maybe they shouldn't have. And I think that was just to further help him have a better edit so people understood why he won the game. Despite Jeff literally saying in like his first or second podcast that he just started for this season, there's no such thing as a winner's edit. That's a ludicrous statement.
Oh, yeah, that's total horseshit. We all know that.
Yeah, it 100% is, because if you're going to effectively tell a story, we need to know how that person got to where they are, But anyway, let's give our final thoughts. So the story of the overall season, what did you think?
I mean, I'm not altogether satisfied, but that might just be because I truly think out of all 4 seasons that we've had, like post shutdown, I truly think this is the one that has had the weakest gameplay. I think 41 had weaker editing, but I don't know. Like the gameplay on this season was just so stagnant for me.
Well, gameplay aside, what was the story part of it? Like, what
I'm saying the story of Survivor and the gameplay are, you need compelling gameplay to have a good story. You don't even necessarily need good gameplay, though. Like, look at Gabon, for example. Gabon had train wreck gameplay, but the gameplay was dynamic. With this, I guess what I'm saying is that for me, by and large, it was just boring to watch the Tika 3 dominate from the pre-merge. I mean, it's like we were talking about, how when Matthew goes out, we don't even see Ratu's reaction to it.
So in other words, you're just saying that like the edit was boring because the gameplay was boring.
I mean, by and large, I'm saying I would like, the editors can't necessarily help themselves with the fluidity of the gameplay. Like, obviously, I understand that. But I'm saying that, like, I would have liked to see more potential winner candidates other than the Tika 3. And the Tika 3, I mean, it is what it is, right? They did steamroll the season, so it's like there's not a lot they can do. But I was just not, like, I don't know, like, I think 41's ending was less satisfied, but I think 41 also had a few more memorable moments than this. Like, JD and Brad were very, very memorable, dynamic characters. Shan obviously had an incredible arc. This season, it was all just very baseline except for Carolyn. Carolyn was like the one big X factor, and maybe her winning would have, helped kind of bring it up into that X factor level. But for her to not even get a single jury vote, I don't know. Like, I'm like talking it through and giving my final thoughts. I'm kind of even more leaning towards this being my lowest. And I know you and I are probably like in opposition here, but I like when when three people just control the narrative, and I know that that's not like necessarily the editor's fault, but I just could not, there was just not a lot for me to actually get invested in. I found myself just kind of like tuning out a lot of the time.
I think actually, like, overall it was like mid storytelling. We have had some fantastic I'm gonna like call them characterizations. We've had some really good characterizations which made certain players like Jam Jam and Carolyn really entertaining to watch. What I don't like, now that we have the full story, is like, given that Carolyn did not receive a single jury vote, her edit was too dominant.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen too much information that factored into nothing. It didn't factor into her getting any votes. It didn't factor into any FTC time. It's just like, it was like too, we and the thing is, I love Carolyn and I love seeing that. Maybe on a rewatch sometime later down the line, I might feel differently, but yeah, it's just like they could have given some of her screen time to other people who desperately needed that screen time. Because, man, especially like thinking about someone like Brandon and Kane, who just received damn near next to nothing, and Lauren, who got the single mother edit. Franny and Matt, cute and adorable. They got fair enough edits. So I mean, of the merge people, I mean,
their placement was honestly kind of in a weird sort of like pseudo irrelevant position to the way that the game actually played out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think right now, at least fresh off of literally just finishing, both of us just finishing the finale, I'm somewhere in the mid. I think 41 has some great characterization, some great highs, but ultimately that entire season falls flat because it does not make sense in the edit, at least upon a first watch, why Erica won. You can read all the interviews to really clarify that much better, but the editors really dropped the ball on that one. But so it's somewhere around 2 or 3. I gotta marinate on it. So
all right, fair enough. Okay, well, folks, that is the end for this season, but we will be back next week with Laser Dude, who has had to sit out the last 2 storyteller episodes. But Laser Dude and I will be back with what I like to call the State of Survivor, where we will be going over the last 4 seasons, kind of, dissecting what has worked and what hasn't worked, and then also giving our thoughts on 45. Any hot takes on 45?
I don't. I think I mean I saw the preview, and I think I heard we have 2 returning people.
I'm pretty sure it's just Bruce.
Oh, just Bruce. I thought I heard something about Matthew coming back.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I was about to say he wasn't in the preview, but I thought I heard something about that. I hate that leaked so far ahead of time. I hate when that kind of shit leaks. Like, the season wasn't even over, But yeah, I don't know. It's just really hard to gauge. They actually showed us a lot of the players in the preview, but I've got no hot takes, no real takes on it at all.
I am rooting for the guy who lives with his grandma, because I am also a guy who lives with his grandma. So that is what I will end that on. All right.
All right.
Okay, folks. Thanks for watching. See you later.